Hello, my name is Terry White. In this quick tutorial, we're going to talk about how you can shoot for Instagram if you're shooting portraits. If you've ever tried to upload a portrait to Instagram, you might have noticed that in some cases you might have been forced to crop an image more than you wanted to, or you were forced to use an app to kind of make your image fit. Well, there's one simple way to avoid this problem the next time you're taking photographs, and that is to just give yourself a little bit more headroom. And even if you don't do that and you run into a situation where, God, I wish this image would totally fit, I'm going to give you a tip at the very end to make that happen. So let's first of all take a look at the problem. Let's, for example, go to this photo where I'm here in Lightroom, and I've got this image basically composed the way I want to. I didn't show the entire guitar at the bottom, but of course we see the top of her head. She's centered in the frame. I would normally have her to the left or right of the frame, but besides the point, I want all of this on Instagram. And the problem is, if I were to now go post this image, let's go try it. If I were to bring up my phone here, I'm sitting here, let's do that. If I were to bring up my phone and I were to tap on that image and then go into my sharing options, let's open this in Instagram here, copy to Instagram. Well, it shows it to me. Great, that's awesome, that's what I want. But as soon as I go to add it to my feed, you'll notice that, hey, it wants to make it a square. Well, Instagram has evolved beyond squares, and I can just tap the double arrows there to make it fit, right? That's what those are. Oh, wait, it didn't make it fit. I can move it around, but now I'm losing most of the guitar. I'm losing an uncomfortable amount of the guitar. And if I move it up, then her head is cut off. And so there's just no way in Instagram around this. I can't tell it to show all of it. I can't tell it to leave white space on the sides. I would have to settle for the crop that I'm getting here or take it into some other app and try and resolve this issue. So I'm going to show you first and foremost how to avoid this problem in the future when you're taking your photographs, and I'm going to show you how to fix it if you have taken a photograph and you want to then go ahead and have that photograph show up the right way. So let's go back to, let's move the phone out of the way for a second, and let's go back to Lightroom, and let's take a look at a photo that I did the right thing to it. So if we look at this photo, you notice that she's, I want her full length. I want to be able to see from head to toe, but I left myself quite a bit of headroom. And this is what I had to get used to shooting now, is that in this digital age with social media sharing, I normally would never leave that much headroom. I would shoot tight on the image so I wouldn't have to crop it, and I would get the exact composition I want. But in this case, we're gonna shoot with more headroom these days, because what you're gonna do is you're gonna go into your crop. So I'm just gonna hit the letter R here in Lightroom Classic. But once I'm in my crop, I'm gonna set the aspect ratio, the magic Instagram aspect ratio. No, not square. But I'm going to go 4:5 because I don't want to make, I mean, square would work, but that won't work on this photo because this photo is not going to work out. Let's see it. If I did it square, see, I'm still going to cut some off. That's not going to work anyway. When I choose my 4:5 aspect ratio, it gives me the width that Instagram wants, but I still have enough headroom to see the entire image. And I can even crop down a little bit more because it will maintain this aspect ratio. I can even move the image a little bit more to the left or right, and use my rule of thirds to kind of position this the way I want. So the magic aspect ratio is 4:5/8:10, and yes, I can even rotate it a little bit there. Now, once that crop's done, and again, that's a non-destructive crop, that will sync those changes that I just made back over to my phone, so I can then go ahead and take a look at it there. And of course, I'll show you the difference now. Once it's on the phone, we can go ahead and make this post, and I'll show you what we're going to get. So let's go ahead and bring the phone back up. Let me switch back to Lightroom Mobile on my phone. Let's get out of that particular image, and let's go to the one that I just cropped, and there it is. So now that one is a 4:5 aspect ratio, and of course you could do this on the phone as well in Lightroom. You don't have to do it on the desktop. Let's go ahead and share this now. We're going to do open in. 2048 pixels is more than enough, and we're going to say copy to Instagram. Now, when it copies that one to Instagram and I say, yes, I want this on my feed, and oh no, it wants to make it square, but no problem. If I hit the double arrows, it gives me the proper image. I'm not going to lose any of it, it's going to give me exactly the full image that I cropped as my 4:5 aspect ratio. So the tip, in case you haven't gotten it, first and foremost, crop or shoot your image with enough headroom so that you can crop it to a 4:5. No matter what tool you're using to crop it with, as long as you're using that 4:5 aspect ratio for a portrait, it will work perfectly on Instagram. And of course, you can always shoot square, but portraits, if you're looking for a portrait tall image, shoot it further away, zoomed out, so that you can crop it to the proper 4:5 aspect ratio later. Of course, when you're shooting landscapes, Instagram seems to be a lot more lenient, where it does not require them to be a 4:5 on the landscape side. You do reach a point where the image can be too wide, for example, in a panorama. But for most wide images shot right out of the camera, they will post the entire image with no problem. It's only on the portraits that you have this issue. Now I'm going to cancel out of this. I'm going to post these later to my Instagram. But let's go ahead and go back and let's take a look at one more scenario. And that's back to that scenario that I talked about before. Let's move the phone out of the way. That scenario I talked about before, where the image is the image I want to use, but I don't have enough space around it and I don't want to crop it. Now, so in this case, if you want, you can actually add that extra space around the image. What we're going to do is we're going to edit this in Photoshop. I'm going to edit a copy of it so you can see the difference. Actually, we'll edit a copy with the adjustments. There we go. And that will open up a copy of this image in Photoshop for me to go ahead and make this special thing happen here. Let's give it a second to open it in Photoshop. Here it comes. And there it is. All right, so we're going to go to our crop tool. Hit the letter C. That'll take you right to it. I've already set it to that same 4:5/8:10 aspect ratio. And of course, it's trying to do it. And it's going to say, you know what? You can't have this. You're going to end up cutting some of it off. Well, what if you didn't have to? What if you could use the content aware option? And now I'm just going to go ahead and crop away from the image. In other words, I'm going to add some more space to it. So now I've added this extra space here on the right. I could add it on the left and right, but I kind of like it on the right side there. I'm just going to go ahead and click the acknowledgement. It's going to take a few extra seconds longer than it would normally take to crop an image, because it's actually going to add in that extra background that you need. And there it is, it's done. So now I didn't lose any of my image. I added the extra part of the image on the right-hand side to give me exactly what I needed to make this a 4:5. And if I go ahead and save this now, and we'll let it finish saving, and then we'll close it, and then we'll head back to Lightroom to take a look at it. All right, now that that's saved, we'll close it. We'll head back to Lightroom, and there it is. It's already here. So I've got the original one. Let's look at it full screen. And I've got the one that I just did, adding that extra space on the right side. I could have added it right on, or I could have added it on both sides to keep the image centered. But I kind of like that, that little bit of shift to the left side for my subject. So if you run into a situation where you want the image to still be the exact image you shot, but you just don't have enough room, you can still add that extra room using the crop. Now, the only place that might not work too well, in this case, I could still add the space on the left side because the subject is not touching the left side. But in this case, if I added the space on the right side, there would be I'd have to do a lot of work to make the guitar look real on the right side. And this isn't a portrait anyway, so I don't have to do it. But if I had this image as a portrait and the subject is touching the side, one side's okay. If they're touching both sides, that's going to be a lot more challenging, because it's going to not have this just wall or paper to add on to the image. It's going to, try and copy some of the guitar onto the other side, and it's just going to be hard. But in any case, you've now got the magic recipe to work with portrait images on Instagram. Check it out, and be sure to follow me on Instagram as well. You can see some of my latest work there that I'm about to post as soon as I'm done with this tutorial. Take care, everybody. Cheers. Thanks for watching.